Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 181 of Lonely Gods. I'm your host, David, and I'm joined here, as always, by Kate.
Hello, Dave. I'm sick.
Hi, Kate. I got engaged.
I'm
now,
still I'm still sick, so I don't care.
now you're married. I'm
Yeah,
engaged. We're
yeah.
we're all off the market. No one wants to listen to the podcast anymore.
Yeah, this
Apparently,
clearly it
apparent,
was the sex appeal that was keeping us going.
apparently, I recently learned that like making fake relationship dreams, like shipping podcast hosts and streamers is a thing because of all that ninja shit that happened that you probably don't even know what I'm talking about and it doesn't matter, but
I don't know about ninja shit, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me that people will ship
the internet
shippers.
sucks.
Shippers are everywhere. I've seen like no joke. I've seen since I got back into watching NASCAR. I've seen people shipping drivers, and I'm like, that's weird. Like those. It's weird when you do it with like pony cartoons, but like these are actual people, and that's weird.
Yeah.
like, um.
Anyway,
So
we have we have some like significant Doctor Who to talk about this week.
Yeah, I guess we
And
do.
and I don't want to rush into things, but do we have any Doctor Who news?
Uh. Well, once again, I feel sick. That's so not really anything too huge. I did see. So I guess it was last week because I wasn't ready last week because of sheer laziness and not because I was sick. So figure that one out. Last week, perfectly healthy, feeling totally well, didn't feel like doing the podcast. This week, feeling sick, showed up for the podcast.
Well, having listened to our final story this week, I can't blame you.
Yeah. Anyway, so I saw Big Finish put up a little announcement about the next couple seasons of Fourth Doctor Adventures. Well, not season 8, but season 9 and 10. So the seasons after the next one. And the big part of the announcement was that one of the seasons will be stories with Romana and Adric, um,
Mm,
which people are kind of excited for because they haven't done Adric with the Fourth Doctor as a full cast at Big Finish yet. So seeing Tom Baker and Matthew Waterhouse back together, I guess people are interested in that. To me,
I
I
just
still feel
want
like Adric is a shit brick, and he's I don't know why you want more of him, but
I just want to mention one more time. I think the way that Adric left the show was incredible. I mean, he sacrificed himself for the Doctor in a borderline unearned dramatic finale, but like it was so incredibly well done. It was
yeah,
Earthshock, right? Was the name of the episode, if
Earth
I'm
Shock,
remembering correctly?
yes.
Yes, Earthshock. It was really fucking good. It was incredible, and
I still feel like he
Big
didn't
Finish
deserve that.
ruined it already.
Well, with the
with
Scorpion King thing, I prefer to think of that as not happening, but
having Kate, the whole reason we're covering Big Finish is
yeah,
because
I know, I know.
we consider because they have been officially canonized with Night of the Doctor, and they are canon. It is canon stories, and unfortunately, that is garbage canon that exists. So fuck you, Big Finish.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, the Scorpion King. Well, I mean, at least these are set before that, so it doesn't really matter what they
I
do.
know, but
But
more Romana is always good. But
yeah, I
this
know,
is
but I don't
Adric
like
at his
Adric.
shit brickiest.
Yes, I mean, if they want to be true to the era, although I will say that like the a lot of the episodes that he's done with Peter Davison since he's come to Big Finish have been good, and they've characterized him better than he was on TV. And his short trips have been highlights. So, despite the character being terrible and not deserving to have as good a send off as he did, um, Big Finish has handled him about as well as you can handle the Doctor Who equivalent of
I,
Wesley
I
Crusher.
I will
like,
say, to be fair, yes, except for this one story. For the most part, Adric has been pretty good in audio.
well, I mean, when it's actually
There's
Adric, not the Scorpion King.
yeah, there have been issues besides that one story, which was, I mean, it's at least at the very same level if not worse than one of the stories we're going to talk about this week.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I feel like even the weaker episodes that Adric has been in full cast, usually it's not Adric's fault.
Yeah.
Um, he didn't deserve Earthshock. Can you imagine if they did something like that with like Joe? Like, ugh,
It would be like the best story ever. It would be like
it would be devastating.
if they did something like that with a character as beloved as, say, I don't know, fucking Sarah Jane or Romana or something. Um, it would be held up like um Genesis of the Daleks or something. It would be one of those like penultimate
Well, I
stories.
mean, people really do still like they really love Earthshock, so
Earthshock's
it's
really
very
fucking
popular.
good. I mean, like they
So
give they make Adric they make you like Adric. Like they actually make you really like.
I don't know. I still,
It's too little, too late, but they do it.
yeah, I guess so. Um, anyway, so the other season will be another Leela one because God knows we haven't had enough of that.
I mean, Leela's fucking awesome. So
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like in comparison, the announcement of that is not anywhere near as interesting, uh, because she's kind of been like the premier Tom Baker companion on
the
audio, really.
anchor,
Huh?
anchor. She's the
Yeah.
anchor for
Yes.
Tom Baker seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, what I thought actually was more interesting than Adric about that announcement is that they didn't really make a point of it in the press release, and I don't know if they just made a mistake, but it seemed as though they were doing that they're going to be moving to four-parters instead of just doing hour stories, which I think is
That's
something.
yes, please.
Yeah, I think that's something that the fans have been wanting for a while, if that is the case, because usually like a lot of the big fan favorite Tom Baker stories tend to be the ones that were part of the Lost Stories box set or the Hinchcliffe Presents box sets, which were longer 4 or 6 parters. Um, and I think it could be a benefit. I think that well they've made a great improvement in the current season. Um, a lot of those stories have felt throwaway, and I think one of the reasons they feel throwaway is because they're only an hour.
Yeah. No, totally.
So I think it could be a help. I mean, granted, if it ends up being an hour idea stretched out to 2, that's no good either. But
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that's really the only news. So
Yeah, well,
that's
and we don't
intriguing.
have a Modern Who segment anymore because we're both all caught up.
We're both all caught up. Although John and I have been watching classic 60s TV, and I mentioned that we were going to do this uh, to start watching classic Who together from the start, and we have done so alongside our Twilight Zone viewings. And
Fuck yeah.
yeah,
Or
we've
Jamie, make him do it too.
I've tried to, but he's like, I can't afford whatever. Which granted, like I don't blame him because like
Stuff.
collecting classic Doctor Who is a big pain in the ass and
And
expensive.
incredibly expensive, yes.
Well, I mean, it's
Even
not.
living in England, it's
Well,
expensive.
it's living in England. It's expensive, but funny enough, it's cheaper for me to import English DVDs than it is for an English person to actually just buy them. Because like I get them for like $10 a story off Amazon, the import ones, and they definitely cost a lot more than that in the
Oh
UK.
fuck.
But anyway, so we
But they also
watched.
have stuff like, I mean, there are streaming services now like BritBox that just have all of it.
Well, yeah, I think you can get them like on the iPlayer or the BBC Hullabaloo
Yeah.
store or whatever. But anyway, so we watched Unearthly Child, which I have not seen since we covered it for the very first episode of this show,
And you
nearly
still hate
nearly 6 years
cavemen.
ago now. Yeah, I still think that the first episode of Doctor Who is fantastic. I think it's one of the all time greatest first episodes for any show. And yeah, then you have 3 parts of cavemen, and it's boring. It's very boring.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. But we're into the first couple episodes of the Daleks, so
All right.
that's things are looking up. But anyway,
Let's get into this week's stories.
yeah, okay, please.
Okay. So first up, we have the next episode in the second half of our Fourth Doctor Adventure season, Bad Penny.
Yes, Bad
So
Penny.
is a story I listened to twice because, as we mentioned last week, I accidentally listened to it in preparation for the episode, not remembering how much we were listening to. And holy fuck, I'm glad I re-listened to it because I did not remember any of it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those paradoxy episodes. So
It's so Bad Penny is a good but very it's Bad Penny is essentially a short trip.
yeah, well, I mean, in a way, it's pretty. It's very
Ba-
convoluted.
Basically, the Doctor and Leela discover a unfolding time paradox.
Yeah, it's basically it's centered around this hotel run by a guy who's totally not Basil Fawlty, and so like the the timelines within the hotel are shifting and strange things are happening, and there's aliens and tentacle monsters, and it's not dissimilar to the God Complex, the Matt Smith episode, um, except it's it's less of an alien space problem and more of an alien time problem, I guess. And
It was an enjoyable but fleeting story.
as so many of the Fourth Doctor episodes can
Yeah,
be.
I mean, like I would rank this above most of the Fourth Doctor adventures we've listened to, but like below most of this season too.
They
This
definitely set quite a hard pace to start with,
Yeah.
and I think they're starting to taper off a bit toward the end. But we have a two-parter coming up to end off the season.
This
Well,
was a story I think might have benefited from being longer.
see, I'm not so sure about that because you said you mentioned that it reminded you of a short trip, and maybe that would have been a better place for this. This
Maybe.
this is
the
also sorry.
the issue there's not a like there's it was interesting, but there's not really a whole lot going on. It kind of just resolves itself.
It well, not necessarily. I mean, it kind of does. So basically, the Bad Penny, like I said, is about this hotel where time is fractured and shifting around, and so the hotelier owner guy, Basil, he is a greedy and uptight little fuck, and he doesn't like anyone. And so he's called up to the VIP suite by this mysterious older chap who has merged with the tentacle monster that only he can see, I guess. And he's from the future, and he's like, you know, you're gonna one day, son, all of this will be yours, as long as you follow these instructions and so forth and such like. And basically, because there's this time fracture in it, because of there was a small rift where a penny from the future fell into like the 1800s, and the bellboy picked it up and made this tear larger because it brought him into like the 20th century, which allowed from the other end of the time stream the old guy to come back, who turns out to be an older version of Basil, who is now a lord and wants to make sure that
This
basically
future comes to pass. It
yeah.
was and it's
So
that's a real like fundamentally and in execution, it's a really interesting idea that they don't have the space. Well, I guess they really don't have the space to really explore it beyond a surface level. Like it was a fun story. There's just
I'm
not
not
a
really so sure what else you could do with it though. Like
I don't know. You know, in the end, like I enjoyed this, but mostly because I enjoyed it because I mean it's not bad. It's definitely a decent story. It's not as good as the first half of the season, but it's enjoyable. But it also like just listening to this, I was like, man, I fucking miss Cuthbert because the older version of Basil really, I know that's not his actual name, but uh,
it's
really
Ronald
reminded,
Tulip for anyone who actually gives a
yes,
shit.
really reminded me of Cuthbert.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. I was
and
also reminded of Cuthbert in another terrible story that we'll talk about later, but
yeah,
um
oh,
because
really, oh god, oh, fuck. Anyway, but yeah, this was like it was fine. It was like I said, it and I think you agreed with me. Like this feels like a short trip. It feels like a longer short trip.
Well, I mean, I think I liked it a little bit more than you did. I thought it was
No,
pretty.
I really, I mean, I did really enjoy it. I just think it, I think my biggest complaint was the end kind of just resolves itself. Like I didn't feel like it was a lot of really interesting setup and ideas floating about that kind of just worked themselves out in a way that makes sense. I mean, the doctor basically helps prevent the paradox from fully forming, which is what you would expect from this kind of story. It just
Well, I mean, yeah, basically he uses the penny or whatever to send the bellboy back to his own time, which kind of ends up sewing up the whole thing. Um, and then like takes the penny off the street before he can find it, so he never finds it, and so on and so forth. But I mean, yeah, I enjoyed this. I like paradoxical reality warping
this definitely
stuff,
felt like a
and
good modern episode of Doctor, like a fun, not necessarily like
yeah,
an
yeah,
amazing, but a fun modern episode of Doctor Who. Just
that's
like a
that's fair.
nice hour-long story that resolves itself neatly in the end.
And I think, um, oh, I'm getting nauseous. I think,
I hope you feel better, Katie.
yeah. Well, once we get to our last story, we'll see how nauseous I get.
Oh
Um,
God, you're
anyway, I think like the bulk of the scenes in this episode are the Doctor and Leela, sometimes together and sometimes not, along with the various hotel staff, making their way through different parts of the hotels that are in different time zones, experiencing strange phenomena. And I think, just kind of the atmospherics and the bizarre occurrences and that kind of stuff is just kind of up my alley. So I probably
and
got
you know
more
what?
enjoyment out of this than others might. But
And I think you identified right there a good explanation as to why this wasn't like an amazing episode was that this was a really good conceptual episode, but one that like it didn't need to be the fourth Doctor, it didn't need to be Leela. Like
no, although I'll tell you this, regardless of quality, I'm really really impressed with season 7, the way that they have kept everything so varied in style, because there's a lot of Fourth Doctor adventures that are really cookie cutter and formulaic.
oh
But
I
things like this is a weird paradox episode. Shadow of London was really unexpected because it's setting you up to think it's going to be formulaic, and then it's not. We had the cyberpunk mindscape two-parter, like Leela's fucking
with the fucking flex
imprisonment
yeah.
Cromarsh things. Like, and
This
what the
is
hell was the premiere? I don't even remember it now.
this is
but they've done a lot of really different stuff, is my point. And this is still
this
something
might be the
different.
best season of the Fourth Doctor adventures, just overall.
It's
Like
certainly been the most interesting.
we need to look back at all of them because I mean you probably know better than I do because
I don't know. I mean,
you have a better well I mean in general you have a better memory than I do, but like
only when
overall,
it
like
comes to
this
totally useless things.
but this
um,
has been a really great overall season of the Fourth Doctor adventures, which was exactly what we fucking needed because we
yeah, we were both getting
if
tired
you've
of it
been listening to the podcast we have been getting tired of it. Yeah, exactly.
because, like,
It just
as much as everybody loves Tom Baker, like at this point, we've had so much of him.
it was we finally
Oh,
found
Sons
the
of it was the
downside.
robots one. That was another really good one.
Yeah, we finally found the downside of, well, okay, just make some more like decent Tom Baker episodes, and we had finally run the gambit of like, okay, you need to give me something really interesting because I'm over just more. Like I want different, I want new. And this season has provided that. Even when
Yeah,
it hasn't been the best, it's been interesting.
exactly. They haven't always executed to a high level. Some of them have. I really really like Leela's mental institution episode. Like,
Yes, that was
that's
fantastic. And
fantastic.
I really liked Bad Penny. And I, it had its issues, but I liked last week's story too.
For me, I still think Shadow of London is the weakest one, just because it almost felt like they had a neat
It
concept of this spy
yeah.
training village, and then they didn't have enough confidence in that, so they
So they
tacked a
did the
Doctor Who monster on
monster.
it.
Yeah, but like I really liked that idea. I really liked just, you stumble into a Nazi recreation of London to train spies in. Like that's such a cool idea
Yeah,
that
and a
definitely
monster is
actually,
not
yeah.
needed.
No.
It's the
Anyway,
same way. Like, as much as I love like 95% of Vincent and the Doctor. I don't know why they put a monster in that episode. You
yeah.
really don't need that.
I literally brought that up to a non-Doctor Who fan the other day to just we were just talking about art and modern art and stuff, and I was like, yeah, there's this really great moment in this Doctor Who episode where they're hanging out with him, and they do that scene where they look up at the night sky and see what he sees.
Yeah, actually, I had a bit of um, a weird deja vu moment when we went to the National Gallery and we saw Van Gogh's paintings, because I remember the scene where they took him to the gallery in the episode,
Yeah.
and I was like, it was weird. I had a fair few of like that. I'm like, oh, I'm walking on this bridge, and the Daleks went over here when they invaded the Earth and tried to scoop out the core and drive it around.
Yeah. Also reminds me of the really I mean there's some issues with that episode, but I like the overall I like the David Tennant Shakespeare Ghosts of the Globe Theater whatever episode. I liked some of it. The overall plot was dumb, but I
I
like
hear tell those witches are in a well, I don't not hear tell. I know that those witches are in a Sixth Doctor audio from the classic Doctor's New Monsters box set. So
we'll get there eventually.
yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how they pair up with Colin Baker, because I mean, frankly, they didn't really make any kind of lasting impression on me. So I thought they were kind of a weird choice when you have things like the Jadoon or whatever. But like, it's Big Finish, and they can polish turds very very well. So we'll see. But anyway,
So
Fifth Doctor.
Next up, yeah, we move into our Fifth Doctor stuff. So we have 3 stories to talk about this week. The first one being and it was funny because right before the episode, I looked at our episodes to like title this video and everything. I was like, oh fuck, I almost completely forgot those 2 stories. But our first one is The Queen in the Crown.
Church in the Crown.
Church in the Crown.
He didn't look hard enough.
It didn't look hard enough. But I don't have a whole lot to say about this story because there wasn't anything necessarily shocking or crazy, but I really liked The Church in the Crown. Kate, why don't I need a little bit of your help to recap this because
All right. Well, I mean, yeah. Can you imagine if we both forget things? Will be reduced to reading the Big Finish product page. I've heard podcasts that do that. Lazy. Anyway, so The Church in the Crown is set in 17th century France. It's a historical, which I think is a smart move to take Eminem for her first trip. And so anyway, they land in Paris, Gay Paris, in the era of the Musketeers and Cardinals and Notre Dame and all that. Which again tickled.
Yes.
Which again tickled me pink because I quite like the Alexandre Dumas books of the Musketeer and Count of Monte Cristo and all that. So
I in the past year or 2 saw the Three Musketeers, the play version, for the first time and fucking loved it.
Yeah, so it's a fun milieu to play in, and I liked that this is by the way, a pure historical. There are no aliens here, other than the Doctor.
I really enjoyed this. There were, and I messaged you this too because of course, as our audience knows at this point, we don't talk much about the stories we listen to before the podcast because
sometimes you just have to exclaim a few things.
Yeah,
like people eggs and giant ants.
Giant ants with people eggs, yes. But we keep it under wraps for the most part. And I think the only thing I said was like, I love this story, but there were like 2 real groaner moments that don't like ruin it or anything. But
are groaners.
And
I don't know. It's usually you that initiates these things because either I'm ahead of you or
I'm ahead of you.
or you're ahead of me or I've heard it before or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the last time I like typed in all caps to you was I was just like tickled pink by the idea that Iris Wildtime was living in a monastery but like smoking and playing loud music all night, which is like
also that the other Iris episode where she talks about playing chess with the Zarbi.
It was backgammon.
Backgammon.
A lively game of backgammon.
Yes.
Anyway, so fucking yes. It turns out that the King Louis the 13th is having a
Right.
ball, and he is having a ball. His estranged wife Queen Anne is coming home from Spain, and she looks exactly like Perry, because that's convenient. And anyway, so
World.
the Duke of Buckingham, who is the English Prime Minister, hatches this nefarious plot to kidnap Queen Anne. Accidentally kidnaps Perry instead, but anyway, he hatches this devious plot. So he does a kidnapping. He tries to make it look like the cardinal and his men did it. To basically incite violence between the Cardinal's guards and the Musketeers, and basically have the French fighting each other while he invades from this army he's been smuggling into the country for quite a while, with
So
the
you're
help
telling
of a
me
harlot in the court.
you're telling me not only do we get excellent political intrigue, we get Doctor Shenanigans too.
And
Yes,
and
please.
and fencing and
Sign
swordsmanship, yes.
sign me up, madam. This
Yeah.
I
So
thought this story start to finish was super fun. And those groaner
that's
moments
exactly what it is. It's fun.
there's literally there's two moments, one like midway through and then one at the very end that has to do with the doctor talking about the musketeers to the actual musketeers that
Oh
are
yeah,
like,
he tries to teach
okay,
them the all for one thing, and they're just like,
that's
I don't know.
that's the one at the end where he teaches them all for one and one for all. And there's another moment where I can't remember what the line is anymore, but he said something, and I was just like, like one of those things where you chuckle to yourself, but you're like, that's stupid, and you should have left that out.
Yeah, probably. It's
But
funny, those kinds of puns you'd expect from Tom Baker's mouth, not so much from Davison. But
yeah, but overall, like this story is fantastic. It's
oh,
we
I
don't
think
get
I think the thing that made me laugh was one of the kidnappers telling Perry to drop the stupid accent or something like that.
yeah.
It's like that doesn't suit you. That just sounds weird. Stop it. Like,
Yeah, like this is just such a great, yeah, like you I said you agreed, just a really fun
they say the word
story.
whore a lot in the
Yeah.
story.
And it really uses the historical setting to its advantage, and it's a really cool time, and it's not and this is a problem modern Doctor Who runs into a lot. I mean, some of the classic stuff does as well, but we've gotten away from historicals so much in the TV show. You don't see it a lot. Whereas when you do these type of historical episodes, they go with the fictionalized version. Whereas this one really is like, okay, who actually were the musket? We're not talking about the 3/4 musketeers. We're talking about who really were the musketeers of France. It's like basically
Well,
like a private army slash security force or whatever, and
well,
there's
it's
all
it's
these
it's the
different.
it's well, it is the Church and the Crown. It's the Church's guard versus the King's guard.
Yeah,
And
and
I mean, to be like, yes, that is more realistic than having Athos and Porthos and D'Artagnan and Aramis and all that. But
yes,
um, it's still it's like there might be politicking, but like this isn't the massacre. Like this is very much a swashbuckler uh, adventure story, and it's a ton of fun. And I liked especially that they made really good use of Eminem in her first outing, because
Aaron I
Eminem,
gotta
yeah,
say it,
I,
Aaron
okay. Anyway, Eminem is
I
she's good in this because I thought it was a smart move because she's from so far in the past that you run into the same problem you would with like Jamie or Katarina or Lula, where she's not going to know anything. And so taking her to her future but still our past, pre-industrialization, I think was a smart move because it gets her used to things a little
yeah,
more, and without throwing her totally into the deep end, it gives her an arena that she can still navigate. I really like the way that she took the initiative upon herself to get her and the Doctor into the King's court. The way she was able to navigate the nobility with her experience from her own kingdom, and it made her come off as a very strong and important piece of the story, while at the same time still allowing her to be befuddled with things like glass windows.
I really like Aaron.
So she's pretty cool, and I mean, yeah, it's a silly premise. Um, but it is fun, and I've seen some people comment that they kind of were tired of the exact duplicate plot device, but at this point, it's just such a Doctor Who thing. Like I don't even care anymore.
It worked.
It's all right. I mean, and Nicola Bryant did a pretty good job with her vocal performance for differentiating Perry
Yeah,
and the
they
Queen. They
felt
don't
like
sound
different
anything
characters.
alike. Like
Well,
so.
because Perry has the now cemented in stone terrible American accent,
She has the
and
Perry accent.
and uh,
The
and the
Queen is her
Queen,
natural British, and also has
her
a really
natural non-French British accent.
her natural non-French British accent, but also in a lower register than Perry talks, and
Yeah, it worked.
she sounds like a more mature character than Perry, because Perry is American, and Americans are all sassy
Yeah,
and youthful. So
but I would highly recommend the King and the Queen, the King and the
the King and the
Crown,
Thing,
the King and the Crown. Yeah, like it
the
was
King
it
and
was
I.
it's super fun. Highly recommend. We'll definitely add it to that list we put together
We really ought to publish that list somewhere.
somewhere at some point. Yeah,
Recommendations for
totally.
people to spend their hard-earned Doctor Who bucks on.
Yeah, literally. Well, it's like all those people put out those stupid fucking like here's like all the best Star Trek Next Gen episodes you need to watch. You can ignore everything else if you would like. We should definitely do that for Doctor Who / Big Finish.
Well, I think Big Finish buying guide specifically would actually be useful for people because there's just so much of it. Whereas, like for the TV series, even though there's a lot of classic Who, like it's a TV show, you can go in order. But Big Finish Doctor Who is just thrown out in any order they fucking feel like. So, you know. Anyway, fucking shit. We have more audio still.
Yes.
So tell me
Okay.
about
So let's move on to our
this.
next story, which is I believe called No Place Like Home.
That is right. It's another of our Doctor Who magazine freebie promos.
Giveaways.
Yes. So
So
it's about half an hour, a little over half
this
an
is this is our second one, correct?
hour. We've covered a few of these by
Have we?
now.
I may
Yeah,
have
we
mistyped
have.
this in the description. The only one I remember is Cuddlesome, which is terrible.
There was Cuddlesome, and then we've done a couple. I know
I
we've
think
done.
we did one more that was decent.
It was. I will
What
look
was
up right now.
nothing?
Let's see. Big Finish for free, I believe, is where they're classified on the site. Sell podcasts. Bah. Yeah, we've also done Living Legends with Paul McGann,
I don't remember that one.
and then Cuddlesome. Yeah, we haven't done too many
So
magazine freebies. There's a unit one. Oh, we haven't done a unit. Never mind. Okay.
first up,
Sorry.
Kate,
What?
I know that Doctor Who nerds that are reading this magazine to get these free stories technically will probably already be listening to Big Finish.
They might
But
be.
but at a fundamental level, these are supposed to be marketing tools to get people interested in Big Finish audio dramas to buy in and purchase them, correct?
Correct. And in these days, you had to actually take out a subscription like you would to a magazine and have the CDs physically mailed to you every month because there was no download option in 2002.
So why does Big Finish insist on putting the weirdest, not great stories as these marketing tools?
I would guess because
They didn't know what else to fucking do with.
well, I would say they couldn't put. Obviously, you don't want to give away your best trick, right? And you don't want to put something out there that's going to be like super continuity heavy. And a lot of the big moments in Big Finish Doctor Who are born
You
out of continuity.
you say that, and what is this story but an Aranem led?
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, all you need to know is that Aramum is a new companion in the TARDIS from Egypt, and I think the point of this story I would have thought would be to promote Aramum as this new audio original companion to readers of the magazine. And like I said, the mitigating factors of doing something that's a little bit inside baseball like this is number one, Shade, who appears in this story, is from the Doctor Who magazine comic strip. So there's already added interest for people who are regular Doctor Who magazine readers. And also, Doctor Who magazine, uh, like people reading Doctor Who magazine at this point would be super, super nerds. Because when this came out, the TV show had been off the air for literally 15 years. So the only people still reading a monthly publication about Doctor Who are going to be reading reviews of books, VHS and DVD releases, and audios, because there's nothing else. And so I'm just saying, like, it's not like it's something they gave away with a Sunday paper to a general audience. They are giving this away to people who are kind of, they're giving away to nerds who are fucking nerds who are like already kind of up to speed on all things Doctor Who. I mean, if they gave this away, even though it's Doctor Who magazine, like if they gave this away in Doctor Who magazine like circa 2006, all the people who tune in for David Tennant are gonna know what the fuck's going on. But you know, pre-new series, like nobody who cares about anything that's not nerdy is going to read Doctor Who magazine.
I understand that, but you also have to agree that literally having a story where your three main characters are deep fucking nerd dives is weird. Like, that's your free marketing story. It's basically like, I mean, technically I understand it because it's like, hey man, if you understand these three references, you're fucking like you now know you need to be listening. Though I don't know,
which is funny
because you couldn't understand Aaron M without having done that already.
Well, I mean, I think you could understand Aramem. Like I said, I don't think there's too much in the story that you need to get up to speed with. It's not like something like the older Nissa storyline where like you have to know what the hell's going on in order to have a chance.
Like you don't know who this person is unless you're listening to Big Finish.
That's true, but also the story opens with her being shown around the TARDIS. So I mean, in a way, like if you don't know who she is, you just kind of can sort of go, "Oh, she's a new companion," like you know. It's so, just, and I mean, and this probably would have come with an article and a little write up in the magazine saying, you know.
And we've barely. I mean, this story is basically the TARDIS is taken over by a super intelligent Gallifreyan mouse.
Yeah, mouse, whatever.
It's a very simple. It was a fun little story that it's also basically a short trip.
Well, I mean, yes, this actually predates the short trip series.
Yeah, I mean technically it can't be a short trip because short trips are basically like companion chronicles.
Yeah, this is full cast.
Voices. So. This is full cast.
Well, I mean, we say full cast, but technically, like Perry's, I guess, locked in her room and we just don't hear her. But
you know. Do we hear the Doctor? Yeah, we do.
Yes. Peter Davison and Caroline Morris, who plays Eminem, are both in this. And anyway, so yeah, basically, I know I do.
Funny.
Anyway, so the plot of this basically is Eminem at the end of Church and the Crown. Initially, the Doctor was planning to drop Aramem off at the Braxitel collection to study, and
it's great that they did a really good job setting that up, but where we left off in Gallifrey before we stopped to then eventually reach in Doctor Who chronology order, like knowing what I know, every time I hear that, I'm just like this giant fucking like nerdgasm.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, see, the thing about Brax is that like there's kind of two strands of Brax even in Big Finish. There's the Braxiatel collection Brax, who Benny works for. And then there's the Gallifrey Braxiatel, who's this conniving, horrible politician.
He's basically multiple man or whatever.
So we have to so basically there was a lot of speculation for years about sort of like what order those things are in from Brax's perspective and like how they kind of line up and like whether the collection comes after his Gallifrey politician years or simultaneously or like how all that tie together. But anyway, so they're going to dump her at the Braxitel collection, and
which would be a great place for her because she's very intelligent and loves learning.
Well, and can you imagine if he leaves her there at a time when Bernice Summerfield is working there? She'd have a
Oh
field day
my
with that.
God, Brax would have like the best underling ever through Aaron M.
So anyway, but at the end of Church in the Crown, because she was so useful and didn't want to go, the Doctor decided to take her on as a full-time companion. So when we open this story, she's getting the tour of the TARDIS, and I think they're arguing about her cat because he's like pooped on the floor and stuff. So anyway, and
And
then
also, he has a space demon in his brain.
we'll get to that. Uh, yeah, the heroic sacrifice of the cat, and that's not a joke. We'll get to that. Anyway,
Oh my
so
God.
she's showing Eminem around the TARDIS, but the rooms aren't where he thinks they are. And at first, you're like, "Oh, Doctor, you're being silly," but no, they're really like the geometry of the TARDIS is all fucked up. So then they go and they find out that Shade turns up, and Shade is like this shadow being that was made by some of the Gallifreyan like lords to, I guess, act as like a messenger or whatever. And he's from the Doctor Who comics. No, it's not too often that Big Finish imports things into continuity from the comics, but this is one of those things. And
They
like
like
they did with
Shade, and I mean, I like Shade
like
for the
Shade, and then
story.
I mean, I think other things too, like the Stockbridge trilogy, like Stockbridge is from the comics. Um, anyway, so fucking he turns up and he's like, something's wrong, and the Doctor's like, hey, you shouldn't be here. You. The last time I was on Gallifrey, they installed a tracking device on my TARDIS. That sucks. So you turn this off, and I'll sort this out. So anyway, they track down the source of the problem, and then it turns out it's this mutated fucking Rovi, which is I forget if it's from the comics or from the novels, but
It's a Gallifreyan mouse.
it's a Gallifreyan mouse. And I guess the last time they were there, he like snuck on board, like
The
mice will do,
voice
and then he
slightly
was like,
annoying,
"It's
but I
yes."
liked the character.
And then he was like exposed to the vortex and became super intelligent, but he was lonely because he had to hide from the cat, and so he decided to take over the TARDIS.
He's stereotypical mustache twirling evil villain that they then just have a normal conversation with and and chills the fuck out.
Yeah, pretty much. So then
It was
Shade like absorbs him and goes away, and that's basically it. I
it was fun. It was a fun little story. It
eh,
was it was weird.
it's all right. I thought like I don't know. It's fine enough as far as free stuff goes, but it's kind of
It's
cheesy.
a very weird ad. Like I enjoyed it. It wasn't anything to write home about. I wouldn't. It's not going on the list,
No.
even though it's fucking free.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But
But
it's
there's a few
fun.
nice moments. I like that Shade gives the Doctor shit over TARDIS security because the
Yes,
Fifth Doctor in particular just kind of lets
it's
anybody
bad.
wander
Oh
in.
my god,
He's
so many
so bad
people
with
get
that.
in the fucking TARDIS.
And then I also really liked how the Doctor and Eminem just like when they realize like that it's a mouse, they just kind of laugh in his face
Yes,
for
it's
like five
cruel
minutes.
but fitting.
Yeah, I know, but it's funny, and I mean because it is a ridiculous situation, and I think that's one of the more clever aspects of the writing of this story, if you can call it that, is that
So sh-
when you're presenting the viewer with something that ridiculous, if you acknowledge it's ridiculous,
it
uh,
helps.
yeah, it helps.
All right, Kate. Let's stop talking about this because we need to talk about what's
Yeah, no,
coming next.
sorry,
Our
I'll
last.
get the KY. I'll be
Yes. Yeah. Just prepare your asshole.
just grease her up.
So, our final story this week is what is widely considered, or at least what Kate has told me is widely considered the worst Big Finish audio drama.
Probably, I don't know. I mean, if it's considered the worst, but it's definitely the most hated, and it's in the
That
running for the worst.
most hated is, I would say, is considered the worst, right?
Well, I mean, yes, to an extent, but
What else is this list besides Scorpion King?
well, I mean, I guess it depends on what series we're talking about, but I mean, just if we want to limit it just to like the monthly series, um,
I'm
yeah,
just
there's
literally Doctor Who audio.
well, like I said, there's the boy that time forgot.
Yep.
There's this one.
Yep.
There's Minuet in Hell.
No, see that one. People, that's just bad voice acting. That's not the plot is not great, but it's not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's not that bad. No, it's not as bad as this. No way.
Let's see. Renaissance of the Daleks isn't very well liked. I'm just kind of like scrolling through a list. Like I don't actually have it on the
Yeah.
top of my head.
Okay. Anyway, let's
But
just get into
anyway,
this.
nobody likes it.
So,
Some of the fucking Divergent Universe episodes people really hate.
so I was really curious about this, which you can hear in last week's episode, because
Whenever I tell you anything is really terrible, you're like, "Ooh, goody."
well, okay, so my favorite television show of all time is not Doctor Who. It is Mystery Science Theater 3000, because making fun of bad things is fun. I love The Room. I like some bad movies. Bad things
You
can be
never asked me
very.
what my favorite show is.
What is your favorite show, Kate?
Battlestar Galactica.
Which one?
The new one. The good one.
The one I quit watching because I didn't like it anymore.
Yeah, probably that one. I mean, the 70s one is, I don't know. But anyway.
But
Lonely Gods, the Battlestar Galactica podcast.
Doctor Who's on that top 5 list. Don't you worry, audience. But nothing can beat Mystery Science and Twin Peaks. Okay. Another show where a small chunk of it's fucking terrible.
It's the bane of any science fiction fan to have to put up with the bad one.
Yes. Anyway,
like this is how it is.
So, like, I can enjoy some shitty things. Like, I can have fun with bad, and it's why, like, I mean, I will still rewatch fucking why am I spacing on the Zarbi episode name? What was it called?
Web Planet.
Web Planet. Like, I would totally rewatch that because it's so terrible. It's great in a terrible way, but that's not Necromantia. Necromantia is bad. It is justifiably hated and bad. There are multiple reasons why this is a just generally god awful story. Number one being, so I don't even know how much I want to go into the plot because
it's a fucking mess.
It's a fucking mess. I'll
just say this: the absolute basic bare fucking bones rundown of the plot is that the Doctor takes Perry and Aramem to an alien bazaar, and they get a weird artifact that makes them, for some reason, want to go to the shithole of a system called Nekromantia, where an evil corporation is squabbling about an artifact of an evil flaming centaur god, trying to get that away from some necromancer witches who are also cannibals. But also there's like soldiers there, and there's like a guy who's an archaeologist but actually isn't, and then Perry is the chosen one but also isn't, and they kind of strip her naked and oil her up, and I don't understand what is going on in this story. And then Aramem gets raped almost.
No, that was Perry that almost got raped. It was not.
No, it was Aramem who almost got raped. No, Perry was the one that got stripped and oiled up. Aramem was the one who almost got raped. And that's not a joke. She literally almost got raped.
Necromantia is literally the culmination of every issue we've ever had with Big Finish.
Preach, brother.
Starting with, first and foremost, annoying fucking voices.
Oh, the witches.
We're dealing with an audio-only medium.
Then that must mean that the witches should then cackle and laugh shrilly at every opportunity. Wouldn't it be?
So, basically, this Kate totally just. This week's episode took 2 weeks, which is twice as long as normal. For us,
well, at least in theory.
In theory, normal, quote unquote, in theory, if you've been listening to us for any time at all, we've taken longer breaks because shit has happened. But I had completely forgotten in 2 weeks that this story, despite the fact it's taken up quite a lot of brain power in the past 2 weeks, just because it is so fucking terrible that I cannot stop.
Are you trying to suss out why?
Trying to understand why.
Yeah.
But I completely forgot that this episode started on a different planet. Yes, at the bazaar where they find the guy who carves
They're rat
Statues
people because
with
we haven't
its
had enough of
teeth.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't
He's
understand that they were rat people. I
they're
missed
rat
that because
people
it's
because
not
we
an
haven't had enough
important,
of mice and rats this
not an
week.
important plot point at all. But yes, he
No,
carved the statue of like a Necromantia god or whatever with his teeth. So they're like, oh, we have to go here.
I mean
Not
maybe I misheard the description, but he's like a flaming centaur skeleton, which actually sounds kind of awesome. But
not important in the slightest because it didn't actually mean anything to them. It was
well,
just
apparently,
justification
like
to get them there.
it made Aramum feel like she was like compelled to go to Necromantia. Like when they went in the TARDIS, she's like, "Doctor, we have to go to Necromantia." And instead of questioning this, why a fucking primitive Egyptian would fucking first of all know to even ask to go there, and never mind why, he's like, all right, let's fucking go road trip. Like, just get the cat away from me. I'm like, man.
But so they go to this planet full of these
Oh,
witches.
sorry, hold on. And just to jump ahead, they never explain why Aramem felt compelled to go to the planet. They never explained what the carving was supposed to mean.
They just knew it was from Necro. Well, it was basically they got this weird carving that was so captivating they wanted to go to the planet.
Yeah, but that's stupid.
It is stupid. Like, it's a bad story. Stop.
Oh man.
Okay.
I'm tired and I'm sick and I can't deal with this.
There is this coven of witches on this planet that all just shriek like
I mean, also eat people.
You know, I didn't hate I didn't like it, but I didn't hate the Crooked Man, but that was one like the one most recently that I can think of that we really complained about the voices in.
I mean, I think well, I don't know if I mean the Crooked Man, yes, there was shrieking in that one, but the worst one was the Abandoned. Where
yes.
That was the one that like I think it was Louise Jameson wrote it or something, and there was like the other Time Lord that was like hidden in the TARDIS and shrieked and laughed a lot, and it was like literally ear splitting volume. It was awful.
Not as bad as this, because this was just a constant. This was a constant wail, even when it was not like drilling into your fucking eardrums. It was just in the background. Like, it was just obnoxious. It was just there and like grating.
Continually. Every scene.
It was as bad as the Zarbi, but without the hilarious visual representation of giant ants with people legs that make you somewhat forgive it.
Yeah, it's not very funny. I mean, in my mind's eye, I pictured them as like hag ravens from Skyrim, so it's not really particularly hilarious.
No. So that's horrible. This plot jumps all over the place and doesn't make any sense.
There's so many subplots because, like, again, okay, so there's the carving,
where
which doesn't make sense.
This guy realizes that the corporation he's working for is fucking evil and tries to stage like a takeover and fails utterly and is stripped and basically turned into a slave, and none of it matters because it was literally a complete aside and never comes up again.
Oh, the boardroom scene.
Yes, the boardroom scene.
Yeah, I think that I forgot about that. I thought that, I mean, it's kind of, I think, just to establish that not Cuthbert is a bad man.
Yeah, and this is another one with the Cuthbert type character who fucking
the evil corporation. He wants to steal the evil idol of the fucking Kalima or whatever.
He wants fucking eternal life and is too fucking stupid to know anything about the actual
and wastes his entire military fleet being destroyed by necromancy magic.
This evil corporate villain who is so smart and conniving, yet is too stupid to understand anything about what he's actually trying to achieve, and completely and utterly fails. Period. Like there's no explanation as to why. There's not like, oh, it's this height of arrogance or whatever. It's just like, no, he decides to do this thing and it just fucks everything up. And
it's again, like let's just like count up the number of plot threads that we have to worry about here. So again, number one, we have Aramum mysteriously being drawn to the planet, which is never resolved. So that's one. We have
explained or anything
or explained. We have the mystery of the evil witches and their dark god, which is two. We have
which is the only one actually explained.
Yes, we have the evil corporation. That's three. We have the
Never
survivors.
explained and is only made more confusing.
We have the survivors of the corporation fleet down on the planet trying to, for some reason, I guess, eliminate the witches and continue their mission, even though there's only two of them. So that's
literally the worst part of this story.
Yeah,
and
that's
never-
4. We have Perry,
Sure.
who's kidnapped by the witches, and
Not
they strip her
explained.
down and they oil her up because I guess she's going to be the new chosen one or something. So that's 5. And then number 6, there's also a guy who is posing as an archaeologist down on the planet, but he's actually up to something else. So 6.
But he also is an archaeologist working for a museum.
Yeah, but then he gets killed, so whatever. And then
No, he doesn't. Technically, I don't ever think he gets killed on screen. They cut his tongue out,
and
they cut his tongue out, and they do cut his heart out.
Yes, and eat it.
Oh, I meant what? Because they kept saying just go with your bond. I don't remember them doing the heart. This is a bad story.
This is a bad story, and as you can tell, and we realized there's probably more that I glossed over, but that's 6 plot lines. Most of them don't go anywhere, and all of them are bad.
Only one of them goes anywhere. The only one that goes anywhere is the explanation of the witches.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do they end the plot line, I guess, because eventually the corporate guy comes down to the planet himself, and then the sergeant guy on the planet, who is a would-be rapist, stands up to him, and that's good, I guess, and he takes over.
A couple things here. Let's get through. We got to deal with these before we.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and talk about. Let's start with the would-be rapist, because I feel like we keep mentioning that, and that's such a.
It's the most infamous thing about this, but
it's such a sensitive topic. We should just cover it and get it over with, because it
is
an incredible.
I mean, I didn't want to shove it under the rug. I just wanted to impress upon anyone who hasn't heard this. What a fucking mess, plot-wise, this is.
I didn't want to start with that because we are both adults. We've had conversations sort of similar to this before, but basically, I don't mind when Doctor Who gets dark.
No,
like it can happen. It can be fine. I have issues with using rape as a plot device fundamentally because it's cheap, but then I like the girl with the even though there's lots of issues with that book and movie too. I like the girl with the dragon tattoo. I'm a giant Berserk fan, and I have issues with that rape scene too. But that most of that story wouldn't exist without that. And it can be used. It is a cheap plot device, but whatever. But it does not fucking belong in Doctor Who. I don't maybe in some situation,
I'd say Torchwood could do it.
There could be a plot device with that. But just to have this character who is not introduced as a bad guy initially.
Well, I mean, he's introduced as basically, I mean, he's not a mercenary, but he has that kind of personality. He's very hard ass. He's very, I'm going to get the job done. I don't care who I have to hurt to do it.
But it really feels out. But
it comes out of nowhere. Yeah, I agree, because it's
to rape Aramim.
Not just threatens, tries, and when she resists, he beats her to a pulp.
Yeah. And
then it's never really mentioned again. Like, he doesn't pay for it. He ends up leading the company because he gets rid of
we don't treat him as a pure villain after that, which is the worst part out of all of this, is to use that in the plot and then not instantly treat him as the most disgusting member of this whole plot.
This whole terrible plot full of disgusting characters.
Baffling. It's just because I listened to the first episode. I'm like, why the fuck do people think this is the worst?
Because it's bad and it's messy, but it's not that bad
at that point. But then that's towards the end of it's midway through the second episode, and you just hear that, and it's just so unsettling for Doctor Who, for the story, because it comes out of nowhere. And yeah, it's never dealt with. Not even dealt with properly. It's never really just dealt with, period.
No, and I mean that's the thing that I think really undercuts this. Now again, I'm in the same boat as Dave. I like dark when it's done well. I don't have a problem with difficult material. again, we're talking about things like rape being a sensitive topic, even in fiction. You know, there's episodes like Employees of the Month episode of Sopranos featuring a rape. It's one of the hardest episodes to watch in the series, but it's really a huge character piece, and it works well because they handle it correctly and intelligently. And you know, if Doctor Who had done the same thing and wanted to tell a darker tale, wanted to deal with difficult subject matter, that's fine. However, that's not what they did here at all. And what struck me the most was the fact that before the characters, both of the sergeant guy and Aramem, before and after that scene, should have been quite different. You know, the way the characters are treated, and they're not. Before that scene, the sergeant major, like I said, he's got like the mercenary personality. He's a ruthless, aggressive shithead. But he's not portrayed as a villain per se, more as an obstacle or an ignorant person. And Aramem is you know, the plucky new companion. And after that scene, they're pretty much exactly the same way. Perry finds Aramem, she's beaten up. They patch her back together. Aramem says, "Fuck that guy," and then she's back to normal. But and
they don't treat him as a villain, and I know
no, they don't. They don't.
It's just so. It's one of the most frustrating things as someone, because we both enjoy a lot of fiction and you know, absorb a lot of media, and it's like he should be an instant villain, and the fact that they don't treat him as it's basically offensive. It's like it's
insulting
to your intelligence.
Yes,
to treat him as someone who's not like one of the most disgusting human beings.
And I mean, I can understand not wanting to portray even a disgusting person as a mustache twirler, because nuance is good in writing. But again, both he and Aramem should have been handled differently after that scene than they were before it, and they are not.
And
which means that it did nothing for the characters, which means why would you include it?
The execution of that scene is literally boiled down to, well, we're fucked here, but maybe I'll get something good out of it after all. And
it comes out of nowhere, because it's like Perry goes off to Perry's like gone off somewhere. She's left alone with them, and he's just like, I'm just gonna, you know, well, we have some downtime. I'm just gonna rape this bitch, I guess. I'm like, oh, okay.
So like, horrifyingly disgusting.
They're very blasé about it. Like, there's not a build up. It's not like he's lusting after her and she says no and he snaps or something like that. Like, he's just like, I'm bored. Like,
yeah,
okay.
And we're not even halfway through the story, and it should be mentioned that this is in the middle of the episode that is end with the Fifth Doctor being murdered and decapitated.
Yes, and cannibalized.
And cannibalized, yes.
And again, that's just why I'm saying I don't mind dark, and especially like when it comes to Doctor Who, I know that a lot of people feel very strongly that Doctor Who should continue to be family friendly, and that really like racy stuff should be left for Torchwood or Class or whatever.
I disagree. We both disagree.
I mean, yes, I disagree, and especially I think because Big Finish has a higher cost of entry, and because it's aimed at older fans anyway, I think Big Finish can go further than the TV show can, and I think that in some circumstances that can actually be a selling point for them, is that they can do things that TV could not. But in this case, like it's not dark because it's mature. It's dark because it's edgy, and it's
fucking most bullshit edgelord garbage I've.
But and the weird thing is though is like it's not even like. It's not edgy in the way that, like, I don't know, like Shadow the Hedgehog or something is edgy, where they're trying to be like cool or super serious or anything like that. Because it's just like it's just nothing. They just throw it out there, and like, it has no meaning at all.
It's just gross, and
it's not even like I don't get the point of it. It's not. It's not.
There's no like sidestepping this. The Doctor is literally murdered and decapitated and dismembered.
Yeah.
And they solve this by basically the explanation is
we pulled a chrono trigger on it.
What was the guy's name? I can't remember.
It was like Shara, something like that.
Shara. I
Shara.
wanted to say Shada, and I know
that's not
not
right.
correct.
That's
it's
the witch god or whatever. He basically like he's created this sort of little time pocket for himself. That's his own personal
an
heaven.
alternate dimension, like an alternate
a thing, whatever. Anyways,
enlightenment. He made a dimension of enlightenment that he reached, and that the witches are protecting.
Right, because then everybody would want one.
And he pulls the doctor's consciousness out of his body right before he's killed, and then restores him by rewinding time an instant before that, so that he is not murdered.
He puts him back in his body, and then replaces
the body that's murdered
with a copy or something, a duplicate, which is
such a bullshit explanation.
It's a totally lazy cheat, but by that point in the story, it's just water up a duck's back because you're already drowning in bullshit.
And the plot only gets worse because it's after that they introduce and deal with the plot about the archaeologist who's there, who's like
you had a few cutaways with him, but he really gets involved when he rescues Perry from the oil pool,
and then he's brutally murdered.
Yes, well, because he like set up the transporter to like take the artifact away, so the witches punish him by they I mean, I guess on screen, quote unquote on screen, remove his tongue and his heart, and And Aramel's reaction to that is actually kind of weird.
Well, because she's
like, well, he did desecrate their temple, Perry, and Perry's like, what the fuck?
I mean, I kind of agreed with her, but like, it's just such a bad story; it didn't matter.
And again, like that kind of culture clash, you could play that for something that would make sense, but they didn't. No, they didn't do that.
They didn't deal with it.
They didn't do anything, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like the gore in this episode and the sexual content in this episode, like, I don't understand what they were trying to do, because it's not mature, it's not for character development, it's not exploitative even, because they don't really do it to titillate you. It's generally not just trying to be shocking or edgy either. I said this earlier, but I think they're just totally blasé about it, and they just kind of throw it out there like it's nothing, and it is nothing, because nothing comes of it. It's just bizarre and out of place.
It's not Grindhouse.
No,
it's not like Ilsa She-Wolf or something. Like there's no combination.
No, and it's not even that they like swung for the fences and missed.
Yeah, it feels like a 13-year-old trying to be edgy.
But I don't even get that, because even 13-year-olds trying to get edgy, it's like, oh, isn't this shocking? And I don't even get that. Like, they don't play it up as a shocking moment. They don't give you the scare chords. It's just kind of like, oh, this is a thing that's happening. And it's like, what?
No step of this process should have. It's baffling, because this episode never should have been greenlit to be recorded, to be produced. It's so bad.
It's really baffling to think about how, like, so this went for the scripting stage. Like, okay, so the writer is an incompetent fucking idiot, and he submits this script, and, well, not Nick Briggs, but at the time it was Gary somebody. Anyway, so the editor looks at this and like, do you not send this back for a second draft? And then it gets to the director, and then it gets to the sound editors and the actors and the everybody in charge of Big Finish. Like, nobody, like Peter Davison didn't say what. Like, how did this happen? Like, it's not like, this isn't just mediocre. Like, this is like actually a disaster.
Also, most everyone dies in the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Doctor Who.
There's not really, not like this.
There's plenty of endings where like only the Doctor and the companions are left standing.
But like,
and except for a rapist, he never gets any comeuppance. He gets a promotion.
I was just about to say, I can't remember what happened to him. Who's the only one who is like sort of with him, like has issues, like, and falls in line in a kind of gross way, just gets murdered out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. So his lieutenant is
non-Cuthbert mustache twirling villain destroys the artifact that he was after the whole time because
Well,
he's an idiot.
no, there's okay. So like the planet is breaking up because the artifact's been transported away by the archaeologist guy, and so like by this time, the uh, the non-Cuthbert guy has shown up. He executes the guy's lieutenant, who is a lady, which I guess is surprisingly like unfazed by her boss's behavior. And and then he's like, "Give me the data cube," and I'm like, "What fucking data cube?" But anyway, apparently there's a data cube, and so Rapist throws it in the lava because the planet's cracking up, so there's lava. So he throws it in the lava
because he destroyed the artifact, so he didn't need it. Like he ruined everything anyway.
So anyway, he's thrown it in the lava, and then the not Cuthbert secretary kills Cuthbert, pushes him down and shoots him and stuff, and because she's apparently was like the real string puller, and she's like, "You're going to be
the rapist." Yeah.
Yeah. So then they walk off together into the sunset to be terrible people together, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I understood, like when you messaged me when you were like, I finished part 1, like what do you like? What's the big deal? It's like, you know, it's not the kind of thing where it's just awful immediately, because it's like, okay, they're still introducing all these ideas, and like they haven't all combined into a train wreck quite yet. But
I finished part 1. The voices are really annoying. But
yeah,
like the plot's fine. And then you get into the rest of it, and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
And you would think that a story featuring witches using their magic to pull apart a space fleet, that would be awesome.
There's a fucking giant skeleton monster. And it should be cool, but it's so stupid.
Everything is stupid. I keep saying the word mess, but like there's nothing else to describe it. It's a mess. There's nothing about this works. Nothing about this works. The writing doesn't work. The sound design doesn't work.
This is literally the room, except if Tommy Wiseau was not in the room. Like if there was just a bad
they hired Peter Davison instead.
If they just hired a bad actor to act like without that personal involvement of the crazy creator, it doesn't work.
It doesn't. Oh no! But the thing is that's in it. Like this does not have the charm of a Tommy Wiseau or an Ed Wood vintage.
Right.
You know, like this is just.
You don't feel
terrible.
I
would say this isn't even like
a bad script and like washed their hands of it, and they decided to make it anyway.
I guess so, but like it's bizarre because again, like usually edginess is out to incite some kind of reaction, but somehow this turns out being so flat and like it has no feeling at all, good or bad. It's like it's even like sub Rob Liefeld. Like it's just.
I told Kate. I told you.
Well, you know, presumably other people than me are listening. So
no, I know, but I'm just saying. Like I mentioned to you, like Necromantia is so bad. It's a story that you listen to, and you're like, okay, I could see like if someone was like, well, just cancel all of this. Like we're done.
No more Doctor Who ever.
And I listen to this and be like, okay, I understand. Like I would suck, but like, yeah, like this is so bad. I could see them never making any more.
In
like,
shame.
Such a fucking misstep, such a bad idea that like it would justify the cancellation of the entire series.
This is possibly the most incompetent script I've ever seen for an audio, and that's including bad ideas like fucking Adric the Scorpion King. Like
no, yeah, like that is at least.
That's a bad idea, but that's at least written by somebody who understands which end of a keyboard is up. Like I don't know what the hell this is.
Innately fascinating about Adric the Scorpion King. Like it's such a terrible idea, but it was competently pulled off in a way that this is not. Like this is just such a discordant. It's someone just mashing on a piano and calling it music. Like there's nothing here. There is no.
And again, that's
saved.
That's just why I hesitate to just call it edgy, because edgy at least has a reaction. Edgy is trying to elicit a feeling, but this doesn't. There's nothing there. It's totally soulless. It's absolutely, there's no heart and no feeling in this story at all, good or bad.
And I was really when I heard when that rape threat first came up, and I was like. I as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, I don't know what your thoughts were going to be, because I mean we completely agreed, but it was like because it's one of those things that you don't know how people react, but you hear it and you're like, this does not fit
No,
here.
it doesn't.
And
I don't think it's not a case where this could not ever be in Doctor Who ever. It's like this does not belong in this story, and it sure as hell should not be done this badly.
it's
Like,
so amateur. This had the fact that, and I'm pretty confident this wasn't someone's first script ever, is like the person who, I don't care if they wrote one of my favorite episodes ever after this. The person who wrote this should have been fired and never been allowed to write again.
I'm looking up the author now. This was written by Austin Atkinson,
Not
and
a
this appears to have been his only submission to Big Finish, and his only published Doctor Who work, as far as I can tell.
Well, the fact that this was published, period, is a travesty.
Yes,
This is easily the worst Doctor Who story we've ever covered.
Yeah.
I think, period.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like you can look back on episodes that don't work, like Renaissance of the Daleks, and you can see the behind the scenes stuff where it was like, we know the script didn't work, we did our best to fix it, we had to get something out the door, and we ran out of time to make it any good. But I don't know what the behind the scenes surrounding this are. I haven't been able to find really any information about the making of this episode.
It's just so immensely bad.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I have a fascination with bad things too, to an extent.
Yeah, this is an episode you should not be able to purchase, like, find.
I wouldn't go that far, but
well, I mean, I guess from a certain point historically, like, it should exist. But,
no,
like,
absolutely.
They shouldn't have released this. This should have
been...
No,
I agree. I agree with that, but now that it is out there, I mean, obviously, they shouldn't take it off of sale just because it might be offensive or because it has
nothing,
poor quality or whatever.
Like, yeah, like, this is it's an embarrassment.
I kind of hope they regard it that way. I mean, they haven't done anything anywhere near that bad since.
No. And again, like, when Kate said, when you said last week that this was regarded as the worst episode of Big Finish ever,
I would go so far as to agree with you and just say this is probably the worst episode of Doctor Who, period.
Yeah,
ever.
I was like, bring it on, and I did not know what I signed up for, because
I was like, oh boy, Dave.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's bad.
It's an experience.
Unforgivable bad. I would not even, like...
It's a rite of passage.
Dude, go watch Web Planet. It's a fucking train wreck.
But see, the thing for me is, like, something like Web Planet, like, or like I said with Renaissance of the Daleks, like, there's behind the scenes material is available. Like, you can watch the commentary for Web Planet, and you can hear what they were trying to do. You can hear why they didn't work. You can understand, like, yeah, you can figure that out, and that's interesting to me. Like, I don't have the same enjoyment of watching a bad thing to laugh at it, but I do enjoy hearing basically the creators of a train wreck explain themselves, and that's interesting to me, is hearing those creative decisions that went wrong or you didn't have enough money. And so the fact that as far as I can tell, I haven't been able to find anything like that for Necromantia, just leaves it as just this horrible experience that I really didn't want to revisit but had to.
Like this.
And I can safely say that now that we've done this for the podcast, I will probably never listen to this ever again. Ever again.
Unless there's ever a reason that we would re-listen to this for this podcast, that, like, that's the only.
I don't know what else we could say.
No. There would have to be some sort of special, unknown to us at the moment reason for that to happen. But yeah, like, this does not deserve to be revisited. You should just trust us. And
I think
to it.
Yeah, it's part of the first 50 monthly episodes, so it is like $3 regular price, but it is not even worth that.
Please do it. Support Big Finish, buy their stuff if you want to listen to this, pirate it, because, like, do not.
No, don't even pirate it. Just don't listen to it. Do not listen to it.
But, like,
don't buy this.
If you feel like you have to, do not pay for this, because this does not deserve to be supported in any way ever.
Borrow it from your local library.
So bad.
Borrow it from a friend. Just, listen to our podcast and just imagine with your, as Nick Briggs likes to say, just imagine.
This is the story where you want eternal sunshine it out of your brain.
This is
Like,
just terrible.
Just you don't even. This isn't even an episode that works as like, okay, here's literally the worst Doctor Who ever. You can't approach this. It's like you don't even need that. Like we can show you a bunch of other episodes to be like, this is bad. Don't do this. Like you common sense should tell you not to write an episode like this.
But I mean,
it got made.
I guess there is a certain fascination in a product where literally every single thing is wrong, but it's not enjoyable in the least. Like not even from a mystery science perspective. Like there's no joy here.
Just from an educational perspective, like this is if you have to listen to this to understand what not to do,
if you're a Who historian,
you should not be a fiction writer or a Who historian or anything. Like you could literally just write. If I asked you for a list of 10 things not to do in a Doctor Who episode, you would hit on something this episode does in every point.
Yeah, I mean, and when I first started listening to Big Finish, you know, again, I would hear, obviously, you know, the really hated episodes or the really well liked episodes. You know, you hear things just by osmosis when you're in a you know a fan base, and you know, usually all I would hear about this was the rape scene, the rape scene, the rape scene. That's all anybody ever talked about, and it's like to me, like part of me is like, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, it's probably not that bad. People are probably just being oversensitive, or they're just, you know, they think the story's bad just because they were offended by one thing, and it's like, no, this is actually just the worst thing in the world.
Not only is that scene that bad that they should be offended.
The entire thing, every scene is that.
Yes, the rest of it, nothing is ever better.
It's like here's this infamously terrible scene, and as a bonus, we'll throw in 4 more episodes of equally terrible scenes.
It hits a shockingly low point halfway through the second episode and literally never recovers.
I mean, I could like you listen to this and you just think like this could only have come during the period where the new series didn't exist, because there's no way that fucking Cardiff would ever sign off on this.
There's
no way.
I wonder if anyone saw me because I listened to this walking home from work, and like halfway through my walk, that fucking rape scene happened, and I just got like this big frowny face. It was disgusting and horrible, and my expression never recovered.
Although I will say, like, just so we don't have any false impressions, we do not see on screen a rape. Like, you don't have to sit through that.
No.
Like it is like it's like dragging her into the room and shut the door, and then the aftermath. Like, you don't actually have to go, you know, sit through an actual rape scene thing.
And well, she actually isn't. She just gets the shit kicked out of her.
No, well, I mean, she fights him off, and he just kind of gets pissed. So
yeah, but there actually isn't like that. Oh my god, if that actually happened, that would somehow drag this episode even lower.
Yeah, it was something. I mean, thankfully they did. I mean, I could understand that. You know, something this bad, especially when a character like Aramem is not really too established yet and is still relatively new. Like, and you like her, but I'm just saying this is the kind of thing that could kill a story arc like that stone dead, and have nobody want to listen to it. Like, and I mean, thankfully, the next 5th Doctor episode was Creatures of Beauty with Nyssa that we liked a lot. So, I mean, it's not like he went through a continuous rough patch. It was kind of like this weird, like between Church and the Crown and then Creatures of Beauty, Necromantia is like this weird pothole in the 5th Doctor road. But
it's
what a pothole.
We are so close to finishing Peter Davison's arc, both in the audios, at least, you know, up to this point, that has been released.
Well, we only have one TV story left, and just basically it's just the remainder of Aramem's audio arc, basically.
And one TV story, and to just have such a bad, and just it's genuinely shocking how bad like this story just shouldn't exist, and we should just leave it at that. This plot should never have been greenlit.
Although, I mean, on the bright side, people often accuse the 5th Doctor, who we both like, we accuse the 5th Doctor of being bland, and well, this is not that.
No. This is the
for all the wrong
exact
reasons,
opposite.
but it's definitely not bland. So,
But if I really think we have found the bottom of the barrel for Doctor Who.
have we? I feel like they broke through the bottom and kept on digging.
I don't know.
Like,
I can't think of an episode. We definitely have not seen anything up to this point chronologically in the Doctor Who timeline, not the actual release timeline, that is this bad.
I don't
think.
I quite honestly, there's some real stinkers coming up, but I don't think there's anything else this bad again.
That
I think this is genuinely, I think, the absolute low point.
We're going to see, we've seen before a lot of bad writing, bad ideas. I don't
boring,
think
dumb
I don't
performances,
think we'll
whatever.
ever
Like,
see anything that is this poorly written and this completely misses the tone, the feeling, the general idea of what Doctor Who is as this
of what a story is.
Yeah, like, but I mean, yeah, we can pick apart the writing, but just to completely to change, try to change Doctor Who tonally so much, and not only miss like, and to do that and just make such a horrible story at the same time. Like, I don't think that's possible again. Like,
No.
this is a mistake you make and you learn from, and you never ever repeat, because if you repeated it, you would just be dead in the water.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean, I can't imagine what people would have thought when this was the only,
the fact that the BBC did not listen to
available.
this and be like, okay, we're done, your license is gone, is shocking. Like, honestly, a little shocking.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know how it worked in those days. Nowadays, I know that all Big Finish scripts go through Cardiff for like royal assent. But I don't know how it was in those days. I don't know if they just got the license from BBC and were kind of left with a free hand, or if they had to submit scripts to TV Center and they went over them or something. Like, because I mean, I understand sending things to Cardiff with the Doctor Who production office, because obviously they want to line up with the show as much as they can, and the whole brand synergy has to be consistent. But there was no brand at that point. There was no Doctor Who. Like, I don't know who they answered to, but whoever it was fucking sleeping on the job.
Yeah, really fucked up, because this is, again, genuinely horror. Like,
Gary Russell, that was his name. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah,
a failure in every conceivable regard. So
absolutely
Kate,
horrific. So next week,
we just complained about this for almost an hour.
Well, I mean,
there was a lot to say, because there was
a lot to say. I think before we started, you're like, oh well, Necromantia is really bad. I don't know that we can wring that much discussion out of it because it's so terrible. It's like, well, you'd be surprised when it's that bad. Yeah. But anyway, yes, next week.
Yes.
You want to hear them?
Yes, please.
Okay, so
nothing can be this bad, so we can only go up.
Next week, we will be starting the 2-part finale for season 7 of the Fourth Doctor Adventures, and the first part of that is entitled "Kill the Doctor," and which is good because last week this episode was about to be entitled "Kill Myself." So we're out of that woods, and for the Fifth Doctor, we have a trio of monthly audios. We have the Axis of Insanity. We have the Roof of the World. That one's going to be an interesting discussion, I can tell you that much. And Three's a Crowd. So,
well, I would love to try to comment on anything, but all I can say is literally we can't get any worse than Necromania. So everything's coming up Doctor Who, Kate.
There you go.
Bye, everyone.